discussing the build of the JTech ACRO laser machine. In this build, we're going to have two particular sections. Everything that when you purchase this kit is going to be laid out here on the table. We're going to have individual bags for everything. On this side, you're going to see that there's going to be individual bags for the structural members of the kit. You have V-wheels, Y-axis plates, X-axis plates, and everything's going to be labeled. So as we go through these instructions, it will be easy for you to determine what you need to have for a particular step. This is going to be part of the kit, and also we have the electronics part of the kit over here that came in your package. We're going to be doing this section in a whole separate video, so stay tuned for that one and look for that as the second step. But we're going to be focusing now on this particular section, which is the assembly of the main mechanical parts. So there it is. Let's get ready to start the machine build.
Alright, so the first step here is to take the bag of wheel kits. These are marked on the top with says wheel kits, and there should be 12 wheel kits in here. We're going to show you how to assemble these. Each bag should be individual, wrapped with a Delrin wheel in it, 2 bearings, 2 precision shims, and a hex nut. So let's take one of these apart and show you how to put these together. So in here we have the Delrin wheel, 2 shims, 2 bearings, and the hex nut. What you're going to do is you're going to take your Delrin wheel, push in a bearing like so, just like that, so it's like that, and put 1 shim in the center, like so, and then put a bearing in on the other side and snap it in. Et voila. And what you can do now is with the other ones, you're going to have 12 wheels here, so I recommend just putting that wheel and the hex nut and the leftover shim in the little bag that's already kind of done, and close it up because you're going to need that for later. All right, so let's get the whole rest of the 11 wheels done as well. I think you guys can do that on your own. All right, we'll be ready for the next step in just a second. All right, now that we have our extrusions tapped, we're ready for the next step, and that's going to be assembling the Y-axis plate, one of the Y-axis plates. So why don't you go ahead and grab your bag that says Y-axis plate. We're going to go from the electronics part, we're going to go and grab one of the stepper motors, and we're going to take 4 of the wheels that you just put together in that first step, and we're going to get some of our tools ready for it. So inside this Y-axis plate bag, you're going to have some aluminum spacers. You're going to have quantity 4 M5x30 screws. You're going to have the threaded the tooth pulleys, and we're going to have the M3x8 screws, and we're going to have 1 plastic plate. On the plastic plate, the motors are going to go obviously in that little circle here with the 4 screws. On the top, we're going to have a place for the wheels. All 4 of these are going to have wheels, and these bottom ones are going to be a little bit longer so that you can adjust the tension on the wheels so that it gets perfectly situated onto the rail. So let's start by putting the wheels in. All right, so we're going to put the wheels on this plate. You can notice that there's going to be a logo that's going to be the outside of the plate. In the inside of the plate is going to have more of like, you can feel the logo on there, and that's going to be the inside. That's where the wheels are going to sit. And we're going to be using the M530s, all 4 of them, to place it into the front of the mounting bracket here. And you're going to see that's how those go on the plate, but that plate's going to be easier if you flip it upside down. Just kind of do a quick flip like that, and you're going to see that that's how it's going to be oriented. Next, we're going to take the little spacers and put one of the spacers on each one of these. And then we have our wheel kits from the last one we built. We're going to take 4 of those. We had them all nice and neat in the bag. You didn't lose anything. Oh, they're trying to run away. All right, and now you're going to put one of the spacers or the shims, I guess, the precision shims on each one of these guys. And then you're going to put on a wheel. You notice that the inside of the wheel might have a little bit of a problem because there's that shim in there. Just use one of your Allen keys to get it to go on to the wheel if needed. And then you put on your hex nut afterwards. All right, so we're going to take a little wrench here that we got. We're going to tighten each one of these tools. We have a little Allen wrench in the kit, but sometimes it's better to make it to have better tools. We do have one in case you want to do it with ours that we send. And there you go. Each one is tightened. I mean, they can be a little bit loose because you're going to have to loosen these bottom ones anyway a little bit to get on. But there's our assembled one of our y-axis plates. All right, now we're going to put the motors onto the plate we just put the wheels on. And the motor is going to go on the outside of the plate, and so the wheels are going to be on the back. And you want to note the orientation of the electrical connection. It's going to be to the side, off to the side. On this one, we're going to do it off to the left side. So we can basically line up the holes and use our M3 8 screws, our 4 M3 8 screws that we have, and just line them up and get the motor on. And note, don't over tighten it on the motor. Just tighten it so it sits there enough, but don't like totally tighten it too much. And then we're going to put on the timing belt. All right, we're going to grab the timing belt pulley out of the bag, and we're going to put on the set screws so that it's already kind of like pre-done for us a little bit, so that it's already kind of done there. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on here. And it's kind of going to be a little bit of a pain, but you're going to line it up with the wheels. So you can see there on that one, it's lined up with the wheels. So I might not get it perfectly with the camera while I try to do this, but that's what the end result you want to have. So I'm going to try putting this on here. All right, and you want to lock these down fairly tight on here so they don't move, because these set screws you don't want to have coming out, and then you'll be losing steps on your motor pulley. So in the end there, you kind of have it, see how it's perfectly lined up there with the wheel? That's what you want to have. It's going to have a teeny bit of the motor shaft on the top, and obviously some on the bottom. All right, now we're going to assemble the other y-axis plate. You're going to have a second bag that says y-axis plate that's going to have exactly the same thing as the other one did. The M530 screws, the plate, shims, the M530 screws, the timing belt pulley, and the M3 screws. We're going to have a motor. We're going to grab 4 more of our wheels. So let's do the exact same thing we did just in the last step, and take our plate, make sure that you put it with the logo side, and get these M3 or M530 screws, and do the exact same thing as we did last time. Flip it over. Oh, I did that a little too fast. All right, get that, and let's get all of our wheel kits. Okay. So we're going to put on our spacers. shim. Another last shim. And the wheel. Okay, now we're going to tighten them. We'll get these all nice and tightened. All right. All right, we're going to put the motor on this one now. It's going to go on the bottom again, but let's look at the last one we have. So we had our other y-axis motor this way. So on this one, we're going to have to take the motor and put the electrical connection opposite. So in the end, you're going to want to have two separate panels with opposite motor directions. So let's do that first. Take your M3 8 screws. Okay, and do the same thing with the timing belt pulley. Remember to line it up so that the wheels are matched up on the timing belt pulley and have them right in the middle there. So I'm going to do that myself. Okay, so that's pretty well aligned with the wheels. And you're going to have then two y-axis plates, one with the motor facing one direction, one facing the other. Okay, let's move on to the next step. All right, now for the next step, we're going to start assembling the X carriage. So let's grab one more of your stepper motors and the bag that's labeled X carriage. It's going to have a bunch of stuff in here. I'm going to magically open this up and align this all perfectly. Voila! And so out of the bag we have the two plates for the motor and the front base. We're going to have the cable chain bracket and the M312 screws for the cable chain, M3 nuts. Going to have the 4 wheel kits from before, the M5 40 millimeter quantity 4 for the wheels, some precision shims, 8 aluminum spacers, M3 8x4 screws for the motors, and the timing belt pulley. All right, let's get started on putting it all together. Okay, so first let's grab the motor plate, the M3 8 screws and the motor. On this motor plate, you're going to see that there's a hole for the motor. There's going to be a logo here. Let's attach this motor in the correct direction. So it's going to go on this side, and it's going to have the electrical connection facing up. So let's quickly do that. Grab our M3 by 8 screws, put the panel on, and align it. Okay, and now we have that part done. Now let's work on getting the wheels attached to this back plate. So we're going to take the back plate and take our M5 by 40 screws. And there's going to be 4 holes for the wheels to go on. There's going to be 2 longer extended holes for it to adjust, and then we have 2 of the smaller ones. We're going to take our screws and put them into the 4 holes. And let's take the plate and put it down like this. And then we're going to take our 4 wheel kits that we had from before and have those ready and available. And we're going to have our spacers and our precision shims. So that's for this step. So let's take out our shims, or actually our spacers and our shims. Get them ready to go. And we're going to put a spacer on each. And then we're going to put a shim. Then we're going to put a wheel kit. So let's get all of our wheel kits ready. Wheel. Then we're going to put another shim. And then another spacer. Okay, so it went spacer, shim, shim, spacer between the wheels. So it goes spacer, shim, wheel, shim, spacer. So each one of those is going to have that orientation. And we're going to get ready for the next step. Okay, so before we go and attach these 2 plates together, we need to put some more stuff onto this plate. We're going to be putting on the cable chain bracket. So we have a cable chain bracket, and then we have the M312 screws and the M3 nuts. Let's get these ready. We're going to notice on the cable chain bracket itself, it's going to have 2 larger holes here for the M4s, and then we have 2 M3 holes. The M3 holes are what's going to attach this to it. The plate here, put it on the motor side, is going to have 4 holes, but it's going to be on the bottom of the holes here. So let's take our M312s out of its bag and the M3 nuts. And let's put the M3 through the small holes. All the way, get it all the way threaded through to make it easier to put it through. So get those all the way threaded through, and then put them on the back here. And then let's get them lined up and put the nuts on the other side. Make sure that's level. Hold on to the nut on the back, and then just use your Allen key to tighten that on so that it's nice and tight. Just check that it's level, and then tighten it more. Now that it's level, and then tighten. Now it's nice and tight. Okay. Alright, now we're going to attach the timing belt pulley. If you haven't already put in those little screws, I suggest you get the little screws put in, feed the screws into there, and then get them just so their inside is just about to be ready to go through it, so that you don't have to sit there and put it in the screw totally on the timing belt when it's on the motor shaft. Just put it on the motor shaft and then get it kind of at the end. And let's tighten the timing belt pulleys, set screws. That one's tight, so we didn't have to go very far. Let's tighten this second one. So that's also not going to have to go super far. And we're nice and tight, and so it's going to be on the end there, almost to the very end. I'll make sure that it doesn't go over the end. There's a teeny bit showing on mine, but that's fine. All right, now to finish up this X assembly carriage here, we're going to take our wheels that we have and the motor assembly. The long side on this is going to be on the bottom, so we're going to line these two up. All right, and we're going to put our screws on. These are the lock nut screws. Okay. And on to the next step. Alright, so now that we have this all together, just check to make sure that your pulley is lined up with your wheel right here. That's going to be the center of your machine. If it is a little bit off, then you can adjust it now before we put this on. This is going to be the X carriage that's going to be going back and forth across the machine. And then so we're going to be doing this later. These slotted holes in the bottom are going to be used to adjust the wheels when they go on. So you're going to notice that they're not super tight right now, and that doesn't matter. We're going to tighten them up even more when they get on the machine. So, all right. We're going to take our X-axis carriage that we just put together from the last step, and we're going to grab the bag that says the X-axis wheel belt tensioning. And this is going to have some parts in it we'll look at, and we need one of the double rails, the 40 mm. In the bag, it magically pops out. We have an M5 by 8 millimeter quantity 6 screws. We have 6 of the T-nuts. We have the GT2 timing belt, and we have 4 angle connectors. We're going to get ready to put all these on together. All right, so the first thing we need to do is slide and tension our X-axis assembly here. So if you put this onto the machine here, or not the machine, onto the rail, you're going to see that you have some fluid motion. Now this one's a little wobbly, and so what we're going to do is we're going to adjust those bottom rails. And we can do that by having the machine or the rail sit like so, and you can tension them down by taking your wrench and screw and just push them down with your finger and tighten them. These bottom ones are the ones that are going to be the ones that you can move up and down. See how they can move up and down? We didn't tighten them in the last step all the way. So if we do that, just push it down, make sure you have some tension on it, and then tighten them down. And then afterwards, you should have this thing now free flowing. So there's no up and down movement, and it should go nice and easy back and forth. And that should have a nice smooth glide to it. All right, now next for the next step. All right, now we're going to take our GT2 timing belt out of the bag, and 2 of these little screws, the set screws, and 2 of the T-nuts from your screw and T-nut bags. We're going to take the belt and we're going to put it tooth side down, and we're going to put it through the rail here underneath the wheels. I'll get it underneath both the wheels, and then you're going to see it goes through both rails here, and I have on both sides. And what you can do is you can put a little tent in the middle by pushing on both sides and getting it underneath, and then you see how it comes up like that, and you can simply grab it around the pulley And now you have it around the pulley. You can grab this other side and you can pull it down so that you have both sides. This side has it on it and this side has it on it. And it's all nice and in the middle of the pulley there. Okay, now that we got our belt around it, let's put our T-slot nut in. It's going to look like this one. It's going to have the same from the Y-axis rails, very similar. Going to push that in, and we're going to leave that 20 millimeter offset again. Grab our screw. Tighten that down on one side. Take it on the other side. Make sure that there's enough room in your belt. If you did that by accident. Make sure your belts on both sides are pretty even. Make sure that's 20 millimeters. Looks good. Tighten that one down. Now there's enough room on this side. Put this guy in. Move it down about 20 millimeters. Put it in. And this one you're going to tighten. Okay, I'm going to make sure that it's nice and springy. We're good. Okay, now we're going to install these corner pieces, the angle connectors. There's going to be 4 of them, and we're going to need the rest of the M5 nuts and the rest of the the screws, M5x8 screws, and then the M5 T-nuts. We're going to be putting them on the top of this corner, so on both sides. And so the motor is going to be on the bottom, so it's going to kind of be situated like this. So you're going to want the T-nuts on both, the angle connectors on both these 2 sides. So we're just going to do that right now. Put the screw in it, and then get your T-nut kind of slid in to the side. You want to line this up so it's nice and flush to the corner. Make sure that the corner is nice and square and that it's on the edge on both sides, and then you can lock it down. And do the same for the other side. Switch to the other side. Okay, in the end you're going to have 2 on the top here and 2 on the top there. Okay, let's go to the next step. Okay, in this next step we're going to be putting on one of the Y-axis rails or carriage onto the 20 by 40 rail here, and we're going to grab our bag that says the Y-axis wheel belt tensioning, and in that bag is going to be 2 T-nuts, the timing belt, and 2 M5/8 screws. So the first thing we're going to want to do is put this onto the rail here. And from the last one, it should be pretty loose. The top two ones should be loose. These ones that actually move up and down, the bottom ones should be tight, but we're going to be tensioning these top ones now. It's going to be a little wobbly on here, so we need to get these nice and tensioned. So we can take our wrench and we're going to push these down, these wheels down, and tighten it using gravity. Okay, and then do the same thing for this next one. Gonna tighten this back one down. While we're pressing on it. So you press down and tighten. All right. And in the end, you should have it, it should be pretty tight. So, I mean, gravity should be able to take it down, but it should be solid. You should be able to not it should not wobble anymore. So, okay, let's go on to the next step. All right, now we're going to put our timing belt onto the rail. Again, we're going to put it underneath with the teeth facing down. And we're going to string it through here on the rail underneath the wheels. You can push one side to get a tent in the center. And grab that, put it around there onto the pulley. Make sure you have enough on each side, so enough on that side and enough on this side, and that's good. And we're gonna tighten those down with the T-nuts. Okay, now that you've got your belt on the axis there, let's pop in our T-slot nuts. And these T-slot nuts are going to look like this. These are the ones for setting the belt down. So these are going to go in on both sides of this assembly. And make sure that you put the side, make sure you put the side that's like, that looks like the screw needs to go to, that side needs to go down. So it's going to go like this. All right. Now we can take our little M5 small set screw, kind of push it down. Now this is important. This is you're going to need to leave enough room for that bar to go across. So this one needs to have just enough room for that bar to go across. So leave about 20 millimeters. We're going to tighten down one side of it and then go to the other side and make sure that it's tight. We're going to put in this other set screw or the other T-slot nut on this side. And scoot that guy down so that it is about 20 millimeters or so. You can check it with your little rod to make sure. Yep. And then we're going to put our T-slot nut, little M5 nut in it. And on this one, you're going to pull it tight. Just pull it with your finger and then tighten that guy down. And in the end, it's going to want to be kind of like a little springy. You can have a little springy. Okay, we're basically going to do the exact same thing we just did on the other Y belt. There's going to be another Y-axis wheel belt tensioning bag with the timing belt and the screws. Screws and the T-nuts. First thing we do is put this back on again, and we're going to see that it's really pretty loose on the top here, so we're going to do the same thing we did last time. And take our wrench and push down on the wheel and tighten. And then do the same thing on this one. I'm going to push down on our wheel and tighten. Okay. And that should give it a pretty good, there should be no wobble in it at all. If you feel any wobble, then that needs to be a little bit tighter. You can see that you should be able to turn your wheel, but there should be friction on it. You should feel it being really hard to turn, and then just have no wobble. It should be pretty loose as it goes down. So, all right, we're going to take our timing belt out of our bag, and we're going to put the tooth face down again. We're going to slide it underneath these wheels. And you can take it, keep going if you want, and then you can tent it in the middle so that you have it come up. It's a little tricky. Get it over the top and make sure you have enough on each side so that you have enough to go and tension on each side. All right, so one on that side and one on that side. Perfect. You have that same thing with the, you got your belt on all the way on through. You put your T-slot nut in, push it over just so it's about 20 millimeters or so. You can check it. Tighten this one down. On the other side, do the same thing. On this one, we need to make sure that we tighten it. So pull on it. If it moves a little bit, let's make sure we get the right distance. Tighten it, and it should be springy. Okay, now into the next step. We have our two y-axis rails that we did from the previous steps. I have them laid out. They're going to actually look kind of like that. The motors go on each side on the bottom. And in this one, we're going to put on the end plate. So we have the end plate assembly bag here. We're going to take the end plates out. There's going to be 4 end plates, and there's going to be double T's, 4 of them in here, and there's going to be self-tapping screws, 8 of them, and there's going to be M5 10 millimeter screws as well. We're going to start putting these on. All right, so we're going to take one of these end pieces, and we're going to notice that there's 2 holes here. Those are going to be for the T-nuts. The hole on the bottom is going to be for later, so this is going to be on the bottom. So if you look at it, this is the bottom, and then this is towards the top. This is the middle here. We're going to take and get our T-nuts ready to go for these. All right, so we're going to take this and put our 2 screws into it like that, and we're going to take our T-nut and we're going to put it in the back here, and we're going to slowly just get the screws just a little bit into it. Oops. Not going to tighten it down all the way. It's just so that it will stay there. And we're going to then take our self-tapping screws and attach this to the side here. So we have our self-tapping screws right here. This is going to be on the side of the machine. The motor is going to be on the outside here, and this is going to be the front left of the machine. So the 2 holes that you want to put these on are that hole there and that hole right there, and they're going to line up perfectly onto the end plate here. And so we're going to take a self-tapping screw, and we're going to put it in. Another self-tapping screw, put it in there, and I'm just going to cheat a little bit. I got my screwdriver. Make sure you're in the right direction. Okay. Okay, so that's one of them done. All right, now that we have that side done, we're going to do this side. I'm going to take another one of these. That's going to be the bottom again. We're going to have it on the inside here, so we're going to take our screws and our T-nut again. Gonna put those in. Just so that it's slightly. We're gonna put this through the bottom. And we're going to use our screwdriver again to put these on. Okay. Now we have that side done. We're going to do this side, same thing. So this guy is going to go facing this way. So we're going to put the T-nuts like this. Okay, and make sure you have your position. The motor's on that way, so this way is going to go, this guy's going to go in like this. Put our self-tapping screw. We're just going to screw in there. Okay. Now that we have this side done, we're going to go and do the same thing to the other side. Now, remember this is the outside, so we're going to have it facing, you want all the triangles to face the same direction. So this triangle is going to go the bottom on the little hole in the bottom, and this way. So let's put our T-nuts on again with that correct orientation. Remember to get the orientation correct, because it's going to be a pain later on the next step if your orientation is wrong. You're going to have to redo this. So those T-nuts are just done like that. So orientation correct. Line that up. Sometimes these are a little tricky to get in. If you tap them right the first time, then they should just slide in. Okay, so in the end we should have a rail that is on this side and a rail that's on this side. Both of them should be facing in with motors on the outsides. So these are in the insides, motors on the outsides, and same thing on the other side here. The angles go onto the inside. Now we're going to move on to our next step. Okay, here we're ready for the next step. We're going to be doing the machine frame assembly. For this, we're going to need both the y-axis rails that we have from the previous steps, plus also the x-axis rail from the previous step. And then there's going to be a bag that says machine frame assembly. That's going to have some things in it. It's going to have the Y front cable chain holder, and also the feet for the bottoms. It's going to have M515 screws and also M5 nuts. And we're going to have 4 more of the self-tapping screws. So let's go through on how exactly this is going to go. Okay, so the most important part of this section is to orient the machine in the correct direction. So each of the y-axis need to have the motors on the outside, plus the electrical connection needs to be towards the back. So in this case, I'm going to have the front towards me. So this side needs to go over here, and this side needs to go over here. So we have the electrical connectors facing to the back, the motors on the outside, the rails on that side. Same thing with this side has the motor on the outside, connector to the back. The sides have the angles facing in, so we did that correctly from the previous steps. And then on this one, we're going to have the motor, x-axis motor, is going to be on the bottom and it's facing up, and these things are going to go, it's going to go basically like this. And we're going to get to put together the screws on it now. So we're going to now take the self-tapping screws we have from the bag, and we're going to put the side rails on. So we're going to take one side here, make sure you don't move your orientation differently. So from the last little section, I'm going to put the belt through the bottom. I'm going to line up the holes and put our screw in and our other screw in. Okay, now for the other side. Now on the other side, we're going to take this. Do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to take the belt, put it through the bottom hole. Take our screws. Okay. So that's the back of the machine. And this is the front. This is basically a line for the front of the machine. And there you go. So we're going to go on to the next step here. All right, now we have the front of the machine. The left front side of the machine is here, and we're going to take our Y front cable chain bracket out of the bag, and this guy is going to go on the left-hand side, orientated just like this. There's going to be this lower cleft area here that's going to be down low, and there's two holes that line up into the two corner angle brackets here. We're going to put those screws on. So let's grab two of the M515 screws and nuts, and let's put them in. Okay, after we got that side on, let's move this machine around to the other side and do the exact same thing with this side. This side will just have the nut and not have cable chain holder. Okay. Okay, now on this step we're going to be putting the rails onto the front of the machine and the back of the machine. This is the front, so we're going to take these and slide these into the T-slots like so. Your T-slots should be loose enough. If they aren't, then just push them a little bit, unloosen them a little, or loosen them a little bit so that you can slide it through and get them on both sides. I think this one's a little too tight. Okay, so now in order to get it all square, we're going to do something else here. Okay, now that we have this rail kind of all the way situated, you want to move the front axis all the way forward. And what you want to do is you want to square this up. So you want to hold that side and have the T-slot rail at the edge there so that it's all kind of nice in the neat corner there. Have this forward and then tighten it up by holding onto the gantry there. So there's that side. And then do the same thing with the other side. Forward all the way, and then you're going to tighten it down, and there might be a little bit of overlap on this side, and that's fine as long as it's square, so you can see that side had a little bit more extra overlap, but that having it pulled all the way forward will mean that that's going to be all nice and square. If you want to pull these little wire things in to the top there, you can as well. Make them look pretty. Okay, now we're going to turn the machine around and do the same thing on this other side. These are nice and loose. Going to put the rail coming through. Attach it to this side. Loosen if you need to. Okay. And then same thing you did before, pull this all the way to the front and hold it down and push it forward and then tighten both of these T-slot nuts. And then do this same for the other side. So have that pull all the way forward, hold it, and tighten the T-slot nuts. And then you can take these belts and do the same thing and put them in the inside to clean them up a little bit. Okay. So that's pretty much the frame assembly. You can make sure that this runs back and forth real nice. Looks like it's moving side to side, all very nice. The last thing that we have in the box is these little L brackets. We have some more screws for them. Later on at the end, I think we might talk about putting these on as well. We have a little bit of nuts for them as well on the other side. So we can have these attach to the bottoms of these feet and attach it to a table or something like that if you want. And those are allowed to have it be a little bit more sturdy in terms of your movement and such, so that it keeps a little bit more rigid after you're all done, said and done. But that pretty much ends the section of the frame build. Next up is going to be putting all the electronics on.